All right, let's get ready for a deep dive. Today we're exploring Sylvan Ascent of the Feathered Hour.
Oh, this one's going to be interesting.
It's a French poem, and even the title makes me think we're in for something unique.
Definitely not your typical nature poem. More like a mystical journey.
Through a forest.
Exactly. And we'll be talking about how the French language adds to that.
The musicality, the sounds, it all plays a part.
Yeah, it really enhances those images and themes.
I was struck by the opening lines. Wings of gauze and breath.
Interesting.
It's almost like the poet is describing a soul taking flight.
With something fragile, delicate,
Mm.
almost otherworldly.
And how do you think that sets the tone for the rest of the poem?
Well, I think it suggests a kind of delicate balance
Mhm.
between the earthly and something beyond that.
I like that. And as we go deeper, the forest itself becomes almost like a character.
Yes.
It's described as a green cathedral.
With trees like spires tipped with dewlit jewels, right?
Yeah, the imagery is so vivid.
Makes you feel like you're right there.
It does. It makes me think about how cathedrals are places of awe and reverence.
Right. They point to something larger than ourselves.
Yeah.
And the poet does the same thing with the forest here.
And there's this line about forgotten names whispered by the leaves. What do you make of that?
It's like the forest holds secrets, ancient knowledge that's been lost.
Ah, that's a great point. So we have this spiritual flight, a sacred space, and then we're brought to a clearing where the sky is mirrored in the water. It feels like a pause for reflection.
Absolutely. It's a moment of introspection.
And we get this line about clouds dissolving into liquid time.
It's such a powerful image. It almost makes you question how we think about time.
Yeah, it's mind-bending. We're not just looking at a reflection anymore. We're thinking about the very nature of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it takes us even further with the line, a question circling its own mute answer.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It suggests that some mysteries might always remain unsolved.
Like there are limits to what we can understand.
But it's not a frustrating limit. It's more like a sense of awe.
Yes, I agree. And then there's this shift in the poem, almost like the forest is responding to the speaker's search for understanding.
How so?
Well, the canopy opens its arms. It creates a sense of welcome, of refuge.
It does. It becomes a sanctuary.
And the contrast between light and shadow adds another layer.
Right. It reflects the complexities of nature and of our own experiences.
What stands out to you about that image?
Well, I think it speaks to our need for refuge.
In nature.
Yeah. We seek solace there, especially when we feel lost or overwhelmed.
That's true. But there's also a sense of vulnerability in this part.
Yes. The speaker is described as a fleeting ghost, just passing through.
In this grand ancient forest, it's quite a contrast.
It is. And it reminds us of our own fleeting existence.
But even fleeting moments can have an impact.
Right. The poem suggests that everything is interconnected.
Even our briefest interactions can leave a mark.
And of course, we can't forget about the flight itself. It's such a powerful metaphor for freedom, exploration, and transcendence.
It makes me think about striving for something beyond the everyday.
Like reaching for a deeper connection with the world.
Exactly. And then we reach the edge of the forest.
What happens there?
The whole landscape opens up, mountains, mist, the sky pouring into infinity.
Wow. That sounds breathtaking.
It is. It reminds us how vast the world is and how limited our perception can be.
It makes you feel small in a good way.
I know what you mean.
It's awe-inspiring. It's like the poem is challenging us to see beyond what we normally see.
And then we reach those final lines, where the flight itself is described as a hymn sung by the forest.
Beautiful imagery.
It is. It makes me think about nature as a source of inspiration.
Yeah, like it helps us find our own voice.
Our own way of expressing ourselves. It reminds me of those romantic poets.
Wordsworth, Coleridge, and all that.
Yeah, they were all about nature as a source of spiritual insight.
Celebrating the natural world and those deep emotions it evokes.
That's a great point. This poem feels connected to that tradition.
But with a more modern feel, I think. It's not just about beauty, but also about grappling with the mysteries of nature.
Okay, so imagine you're stepping into this poem. How would you interpret the Sylvan Ascent?
That's a tough one. Is it purely spiritual? Or something more grounded in our own experiences?
Who do you think?
I think it could be both. That's what makes it so interesting. We can see it as this metaphor for the soul's journey.
A search for meaning and transcendence?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it also speaks to how nature inspires us, challenges us, helps us see the world differently.
I keep coming back to that line about clouds dissolving into liquid time.
Oh, yeah.
It's like time becomes fluid in the forest.
It really does. It makes you wonder if our experience of time is more subjective than we realize.
Yes. Like when you're completely absorbed in nature and lose track of time altogether.
Watching a sunset, listening to waves, it can feel timeless.
It's like we connect with the rhythms of nature, the ebb and flow of life itself.
And in those moments, maybe we glimpse a deeper truth about our place in the world.
That line about a question circling its own mute answer also really struck me.
Too.
It's like the poem acknowledges that some mysteries might never be solved.
Right, and I think that's an important reminder, especially in a world where we're always looking for answers.
We're bombarded with information.
Yeah, and we're expected to know everything. But this poem tells us to embrace the unknown.
To be okay with ambiguity.
To find beauty in the questions themselves. It's a refreshing perspective.
So we've talked about spiritual flight, sacred spaces, the fluidity of time.
And the limits of human understanding, right?
Right. But what about this idea of the forest as a sanctuary, as a place of refuge?
I think it connects to that deep human need to be in nature.
How so?
Well, throughout history, forests have been seen as places of mystery, of healing.
They offer an escape from the pressures of modern life.
Exactly, a chance to reconnect with our more primal selves. And in this poem, the forest seems to actively embrace the speaker.
Offering solace and protection.
Yeah? The canopy opens its arms, like it's welcoming and holding the speaker.
It's such a powerful image, especially considering how vulnerable the speaker is.
Right, remember, they're described as a fleeting ghost.
Passing through this ancient landscape, it's a beautiful contrast.
It is. The forest's embrace offers a sense of grounding, of belonging.
In the face of that fleeting existence. And it makes me think about how nature teaches us resilience.
Oh, I like that.
Trees withstand storms, they adapt to the changing seasons, and they even regenerate after being damaged.
There's a wisdom in that, a strength we can learn from.
Absolutely. So if we were to sum up this Sylvan ascent in a single word, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a challenge. But I think I'd go with connection.
Connection.
Yeah. The poem speaks to the interconnectedness of everything.
The balance between humans and nature.
And that feeling of belonging we find in the wild. It's all about connection.
I love that. Connection. It's such a universal theme in literature, art, philosophy.
It's something we all crave on a deep level.
And this poem reminds us that we can find that connection through nature.
But it's not just about passively observing, right?
No, it's about actively participating.
Seeking understanding, finding our own voice. Like the speaker in the poem.
They're not just a tourist in the forest.
They're engaging with it, asking questions.
And ultimately, finding a way to express that experience through the metaphor of flight.
Which brings us back to the hymn, sung by the forest.
Right. It's not just about the beauty of nature, but about how it inspires us to create.
To find our own unique expression, just like artists have done for centuries.
Think about landscape paintings, classical music. Nature has always been a muse.
And not just for aesthetics either. Think about environmental writers.
Like Rachel Carson and Aldo Leopold?
Exactly. They use their words to highlight the importance of conservation.
And our connection to the natural world.
So this Sylvan ascent isn't just a journey through a forest. It's a journey into ourselves.
Into our relationship with nature.
And into the heart of what it means to be human.
It's a journey that invites us to question, to explore, to connect.
And to find our own voice in the symphony of life. It's a journey we can all take in our own way.
And it can lead to amazing insights. Lasting transformation.
Like the speaker in the poem, we might find ourselves soaring.
On the wings of imagination.
Discovering new heights of understanding and connection.
This poem really makes you think about our place in the world. We often see ourselves as separate from nature. But this poem suggests we're much more connected than we realize.
Definitely. It blurs those lines, like we're not just visitors here, but part of this big ecosystem.
And that reminds me of the flight itself.
Uh-huh.
It's not just about going up, but about reaching a higher understanding.
Yeah, a spiritual or intellectual kind of ascent.
Exactly. Expanding our perspective, seeing things in a new way.
Breaking free from those limitations of everyday life. So what about you? What question are you left with after this whole deep dive?
Well, I keep thinking about how we can actually connect with nature more deeply in our own lives, I mean.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's not just about admiring its beauty, it's about seeing ourselves as part of it all.
That can be tough, though, especially now in this modern world.
It can. We're so urbanized, so driven by technology.
Right. But this poem shows us that nature's still there, waiting for us.
Just waiting to be explored.
It's about finding those moments, even small ones, like a walk in the park,
A hike in the mountains.
or just noticing the trees in your neighborhood.
And remembering that even small actions matter.
Yeah, like the speaker's flight leaves a mark on the earth.
Our choices have an impact too.
So as we finish up, I want you to think about this. How will you carry this poem with you?
Will it inspire you to seek out new experiences?
To reconnect with that sense of wonder.
To find your own voice in
To-
that grand symphony of life?
We encourage you to seek out the full poem. Read it. Let it sink in.
See what speaks to you.
And maybe, just maybe, you'll find yourself taking flight too.
Soaring on those wings of imagination.
Discovering new heights of understanding. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep.